Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down!
Hi, welcome to another episode of STRLionsTalk podcast, your Detroit Lions information center for everything happening Detroit Lions football. We're back. It's been a while. We've taken a little break. It's since April 27th was the last podcast we had leading up into the NFL draft for the Detroit Lions. We did a preview show. We have not done a podcast after the draft. We haven't done one since then. We've taken a little break. There's a couple reasons for that. We'll get into those. But I'd just like to start by thanking all of you out there for joining us. It's been an incredible year. Some of the things we were able to do this year has been incredible, lifelong dreams that we were able to obtain. And, you know, going to pro days, going to NFL training camp with the Detroit Lions this year is going to be incredible, something we never thought we'd be able to do. And we were able to do that. And one of the reasons we were able to do that was hooking up with NFL Draft Bible. It's been an incredible relationship hooking up with them. This incredible resource of information. If you guys have not been to one of their sites, they are on a variety of different platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, on their website at NFLDraftBible.com. You can find them in a variety of different formats. It's just an incredible site, incredible information. It makes you a better fan, smarter fan, makes you a more knowledgeable fan, and you can talk NFL draft competently and not sound like the guy reading out of the newspaper, because no one likes that guy. No one does. It's terrible. And you know what I'm talking about, the guy that reads stuff on a blog or, oh, this guy's so sweet. Well, of course, the top 10 guys, everyone's going to say sweet. You know, the Miles Jacks, you know, those guys of the draft, everyone's going to talk about. Well, they cover a lot of the guys you find in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds, the guys that make your team, the guys that make your team a Super Bowl champion. That's what they do at NFL Draft Bible. So follow them. It's been a great relationship for us. Like I said, we've been able to obtain a lot of personal goals and dreams by going to pro days this last year, going to NFL training camp with the Detroit Lions. It's just been incredible. We can't wait to go. It's going to be so much fun. And it's another thing that we've always wanted to do and thought we had the ability to do. And by teaming up with NFL Draft Bible has allowed us to accomplish that goal. And we only think better things are going to happen this year. We expect a bigger audience. We expect more followers on Twitter. We're going to open up a Facebook page this year, something we talked about last year quite a bit. Just never got around to it. Been pretty busy. Just a variety of different formats. But if you guys want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Stitcher. You can follow us on YouTube, Vine, Instagram, and Spreaker.com. And you can always follow that at STRLionsTalk podcast on every one of those formats. Whatever your source of information is on the internet, you can usually find us in one of those different formats, whether, like I said, Facebook, Stitcher, YouTube, Vine, Instagram, or Spreaker. Look us up, find us. Our podcasts are in all 6 of those formats. And take a listen. Give us a rating. We always want ratings, especially on iTunes. We always want ratings. Give us a rating and let us know what you think of the show, good, bad, whatever it is. Please let us know, because by you giving us that rating, when someone types in Detroit Lions, it comes up Straight Lions Talk podcast if we're the number 1 rated show. It goes by ratings and number of ratings. So please give us a rating wherever you go and let us know how we're doing. We don't care if it's bad information. Someone on YouTube, when we did our draft preview and we brought out our mock draft before the draft, said he really respected the show. Next week I'll have his name. I can't remember what it is. He said he really respected the show up until our mock draft came out. Now he hates us and thinks we're stupid. Great. We love it. Keep it coming. Good, bad. We don't care. We want to know if we're doing a good job. We want to know if we're doing a bad job. But you, the fans, power this show. We give you the floor. We want to hear from you. So please hit us up on one of those formats we just mentioned: Stitcher, Twitter, YouTube, Vine, Instagram, Spreaker.com, wherever it is. Hit us up. Let us know what you think. And we can make this a more fan appropriate show for you guys, and we can also figure out what's working and what's not working for the show. Like I said, it's great to be back. A couple of the reasons why we've taken this long hiatus since the NFL draft. Well, number one, we took a new day job. I did personally. Incredible opportunity. Couldn't be happier. My coworkers at this particular job are all big, huge football fans, with the exception of one. And the bad news is, well, there's some good news. The good news is there's one Lions fan, so we can all respect that. The bad news is there's a Packer fan and a Bears fan. Thank God there's not a Minnesota Vikings fan, because for us here at Straight Lions Talk, Vikings fans are the worst. I can't believe people give Teddy Bridgewater any kind of credit for being a good quarterback in this big talk that he's going to break out this year. He's not going to break out. His numbers were terrible last year, and he's garbage. And we're going to harp on that all year long, because we were right about that, just like we've been right about a couple other three things we'll get into later in the show that people are catching on to now. But thank God there's no Minnesota Vikings where I currently work now. Now, the president of the company is a Bears fan. He's from Chicago. So you kind of automatically have to like the Bears because he was around the 85 time. And everyone, the 85 Bears, that's why I became a Bears fan and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure he's a Cubs fan now, too. And he was a Bulls fan back in the heyday of Michael Jordan. And I'm sure now that the Blackhawks are good, he's probably a Blackhawks fan. But whatever. The Bears, I can say this with a full heart, had probably the best draft this last draft. They killed it. The Jaguars and the Bears had two of the best drafts I've ever seen. They acquired some phenomenal players to go along with guys like Jeremy Langford last year for the Bears. They've just killed it. And some of the free agents they've acquired and the way they've started to build that team and structure that team, the Lions division is going to be very tough. Minnesota's defense is phenomenal. They could go down this year as one of the best defenses in the league. And if they stay healthy, they could honestly go down as one of the best defenses in the last 10 years. They could be phenomenal defensively this year. So that's something to watch out for. But as going back to the people I work with now, like I said, there's a Bears fan. One guy doesn't care in the office where I work, and then another guy's a huge Lions fan, just like we are. So it's 2-1, 2-2 for the most part inside the office. But now there's a Packers fan. And I honestly think he's just a Packers fan because back in the day when he was a kid, Brett Favre was tearing up the league, and it was cool to like the Packers. They kind of came up with a lot of cool, stuff to wear regarding the Packers. They were on TV all the time. John Madden talked about them. So I think he's just kind of a fair weather Packer fan, and they always stayed good ever since, they drafted Rodgers, and the transition from Favre to Rodgers was very smooth. So I think he's just more of a, kind of a fair weather Packer fan. I think he would like whoever's really good and really popular. He's probably a Cowboy fan before that when they were having their dynasty, and maybe a Bills fan. And then when the Packers transitioned, he liked them a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if his second favorite team was probably the Patriots. But, hey, whatever. We've beaten the Packers finally at Lambeau this last year. By far they got one up on us. Now, as for the Bears, we've beaten them the last 6 times. Let's hope that continues this year because we're going to need some of that to be able to compete within our division. So that's one of the reasons for our hiatus this last almost 2 months of layoff because, took that new day job, some new things sprung up. I was pretty busy. It's a totally different job, but it's great, phenomenal. Couldn't like it more. And the other reason is we just didn't want to do a podcast after the draft. Everyone does one. Everyone overreacts. No one sits and thinks, why did we do that? What was the point of that? Now, I'm not saying all the Lions picks I got. I understood some of them, not all of them. But this draft in itself was very unique, the whole draft as a whole, because not too many experts were right. Fran Duffy on the Ross Tucker Show was probably the closest to nailing this draft. He had quite a few players in the first round that I didn't think had a chance to go in the first round, where other people, analysts, experts supposedly, had it totally wrong, including almost every Lions fans, people that are connected, media members that have big-time connections we don't have yet, for information, got it totally wrong. And I can say this for us here at Straight Lions Talk, we were pretty close, at least in the respect that we thought it would go offensive line first round and defensive line second round. That's about as far as it went. After that, it all went out the window. We didn't have any picks this year that hit. That's the first time in a long time we have not had picks that we thought the Detroit Lions would choose during the draft that didn't end up on the team. So it was a unique draft. Miles Jack slipping in the second round, Jalen Smith going in the second round, a variety of different players that I thought Jason Spriggs would be a first-round pick, ends up going to the stinking Packers. And that's someone we're going to have to deal with, a player I think could develop into a pretty decent offensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers, and a guy we'll have to deal with for some time to come. Another player that we really liked here was Daniel Braverman out of Western Michigan, a player we were unable to draft because we took a long snapper instead of Daniel Braverman, a guy that fits that Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman role that's just so coveted by the New England Patriots. A lot of people have this misconception that Bob Quinn, and this is something we're going to harp on, one of the areas we were right on early on when Bob Quinn came in and made the statement that he was not going to mess with the team. He was not going to make any changes, just let the coaches do whatever they needed to do and wasn't going to be that meddling GM. Bull. I'm going to call bull crap on that all day long forever. You know why? Because you don't take that position, one of 32 positions in the whole world, and you're not going to meddle. You're not going to come from New England Patriots, who've invented winning in the salary cap era, and you're not going to come in and say, hey, you know what? Lions, who have won one playoff game in the last 55 years, guess what? Keep doing what you're doing because it's been working great. Jim Caldwell, hey, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing because last year you really knocked it out of the park and you made some great decisions. No, that's not how it's going to be. We're going to be a fast tempo offense. We're going to be scheme diverse per opponent, and we're going to be a blitzing defense, and we're going to take away the best options on defense. When we're on defense, we're going to take away the team's best offensive option. What they do best, we're going to take that away. Offensively, we're going to attack the weaknesses of defenses from now on. If a team can't stop the run, guess what we're going to do? Run the crap out of the football. If the team can't stop the pass, guess what we're going to do? Pass the crap out of the football. Whatever it may be, that's what we're going to do. That's one of the areas we've been talking about. I've gotten countless tweets about, oh, no, Bob Quinn said he wasn't going to do this. You're an idiot. Well, I might be an idiot, but the fact of the matter is we were right. Bob Quinn is going to meddle. Bob Quinn is going to build this team the way he thinks a team should be built. This isn't going to be the Detroit Lions, Jim Caldwell, and his coaching staff. You know what? You want to run a Hail Mary play with Ezekiel Ansah at the 50-yard line? Hey, go for it. No, there's going to be repercussions for things like that. It's not going to be like it was before when Martin Mayhew was in charge, who was a huge upgrade to Matt Millen. Now, I think Bob Quinn did a great job in this year's draft. I think he's done a great job on signing some free agents coming into the draft. A couple of free agents we'd like to mention, I think, have been signed since we last spoke on the 27th. Jeremy Curley, wide receiver, was signed by the Detroit Lions as a free agent. Darren Walls, cornerback, more cornerback depth, more special teams depth. There's kind of been a method to his madness. We've improved the special teams dramatically. We've added a ton of depth. This is probably the deepest team depth-wise the Detroit Lions have ever had. I feel so much better going into the season with quality backups at every position. Now, are they all going to be all-stars? No. But are they all good, solid football players? Yes. And guess what if they're not? Guess what if Bob Quinn made a mistake signing these guys? It doesn't matter because all of them, for the most part, have received one-year contracts. And it doesn't matter. It won't hurt our cap. We are $20 million under the cap. $20 million under the cap at this point going into the season. When is the last time that's ever happened in your lifetime in the salary cap era for the Detroit Lions? What, the first year when they didn't understand how to use the salary cap? It's crazy. But continuing with the signings, the free agent signings and some trades, Stephen Ridley, running back, comes over as a free agent. I think that's going to be a huge, huge signing as the year goes on. A veteran leader in the backfield, understands blitz concepts, understands how to run the football, understands situational football. understands a lot of the game, passing game, just a veteran presence that the Detroit Lions need there in the backfield. A veteran, he's a thumper. He's the LeGarrette Blount for this year's team. And guess what, guys? No, it's not Zach Zenner. All of you Zach Zenner fans can go sit with Corey Fuller, the guy we've dogged forever, the guy that everyone told us, oh, Corey Fuller's going to break out. He's going to do this. No, he's not. Corey Fuller is what Corey Fuller is, a guy that runs really fast, that can't catch, can't run routes, and has no other skill set other than running really fast. That's Corey Fuller. Guess what with Zach Zenner? He's a white dude that's okay at times, but no one wants him to be your starting running back. That's the old Lions, hoping on guys that turn out to be like a John Kuhn, some kind of mythical legend. But John Kuhn serves a purpose and a role. Now, if he bulks up and wants to become a fullback, hey, Zach Zenner, I'm all about it. But I do not want Zach Zenner being our lead running back. And if I'm wrong about this, I will admit it. I'm not wrong, though. Zach Zenner should not make this team. Moving on, the offensive line, an area the Detroit Lions have really focused on over this last year. Again, another position they built a lot of depth. And during the free agent period, we didn't see a lot of signings. We flirted with Russell Okung. Thank God we didn't sign him. I didn't mind signing him if he came at a very, very good deal. He did not. The Denver Broncos can have him. That is great. I really wish them the best. We signed Jeff Schwartz from the New York Giants. I think that's a great get. He's a veteran offensive tackle. Again, a guy's been in the league a while, understands the league, understands blitz concepts, understands how to be a leader, played on championship teams, understands what it takes to get to the next level, understands how to be a professional, understands all the nuances of the NFL, and can help these young offensive linemen the Detroit Lions drafted, that they've drafted in the past, teach them how to win, teach them some tricks of the trade. You know, be that leader on the offensive line when things get chaotic, whether it's from the sidelines or on the field. I think he's going to serve a purpose. He can play a multitude of positions. He can play a little tackle. He can play guard. He can play center. It's going to be a good get for the Detroit Lions. Two of my three favorite signings, you know, Stephen Ridley, Jeff Schwartz, you know, Wallace Gilberry, defensive end, a free agent signing. Again, another guy to fill that Darryl Tapp role. I think he's a better version of Darryl Tapp. He'll serve a better purpose. And remember, Bob Quinn is signing these guys with a purpose. They're not just signing them. They're not just signing a name. All of these guys have a role and a plan in the Bob Quinn system, and you're going to see it unfold this season. Now, is it going to take a season to get this system going? Let's hope not. Let's hope this is a team that just is a few pieces away, and he's kind of putting some pieces around Matthew Stafford. He's putting some pieces around Ezekiel Ansah, Darius Slay, some of the key positions on defense and offense for the Detroit Lions. That's what we're hoping for. That the Detroit Lions, you don't have to, I mean, it'd be great to have a whole Pro Bowl Hall of Fame defensive line. That'd be great. That's how you get Super Bowl champions, multiple Super Bowl champions, by getting that, by drafting that. You don't get that by signing big-name free agents. That doesn't happen that way. You can't buy yourself a championship in the NFL. It doesn't work. It's not baseball. It just hasn't worked. I mean, the Miami Dolphins were no better last year than they were the year before. Actually, probably a little worse. They didn't sign Ndamukong Suh. They signed everybody and their brother this last year. The New York Giants spent money like they never have before in organization's history. They just, you know, I don't believe they're going to be that good this year. But I like what the Lions have done. Signing guys like Jeff Schwartz, Stephen Ridley, Darren Walls, Jeremy Curley, Wallace Gilberry. Great acquisitions for the Detroit Lions, building depth. All of these guys should make the team. They're quality backups. They could fill in whenever a guy gets hurt. There's no more of this, oh, the star guy went down, and now we have no options. We're looking on the waiver wire for some guy that came out of Kentucky State, and he's supposed to be pretty good, a lot of upside. Those days are done. We have a solid core unit from the first guy to the 52nd guy on the roster. It's just going to be a lot better all around. And this is how a team is built, because it's a long season. A lot of things can happen, and they're still going to stay competitive when some of these injuries, dings, and mishaps happen for the Detroit Lions. Guys underperform, you know, things like that. But Quinn will not hesitate to get rid of any of these guys because they're on short-term contracts. These aren't the Matt Millen signings of the day, the Martin Mayhew signings where we sign a guy for more years than he should because we weren't very good. We were, you know, the destination place for high-dollar free agents to really have a payday. That's now no longer going to happen because Bob Quinn will not overpay. Marvin Jones, I was shocked by. But that was a great acquisition because he understands what the league is now. It's a passing league for the most part. The New England Patriots prove that every year, the last 4 or 5 years. Pass, pass, pass. Almost to a fault. It's almost hurt them at times by not having a running game like they used to. And you can see them reverting back to getting a little bit more of a running game going. You know, like we said before, Bob Quinn, a lot of great things happened for him in New England. He learned a lot of things, how to build a team, what it takes, how to manage a salary cap, how to draft, how to build a team from the inside out, how to get tough in the trenches. Where you win is in the trenches. That's where it all starts. That sets the tone. And he understands that. And he's going to take some of his philosophies and some of the Patriots' philosophies and blend them together when he comes to Detroit. And let's hope Detroit is the new team in the NFL that everyone wants to model their organization after. And that's what the ultimate hope is. And it can also start with another former New England Patriot. He's brought some Patriots over here to teach the Patriot way to the Detroit Lions. John Bostic. They traded for John Bostic, linebacker. You know, that's a guy that's going to fill in a multitude of positions. He's going to fill in for Tier Whitehead if he gets dinged up. He can fill in for DeAndre Levy. He can fill in for a lot of guys because, you know, DeAndre Levy, a lot of news came out. He's healthy now. Let's all hope he is. Tier Whitehead in the middle played phenomenal the year he was able to play in the middle. I think this is just another great depth piece for the Detroit Lions. We gave up, I believe, a 7th-round pick for John Bostic, maybe a 6th-round pick. It was minimal compared to what we got for him. He's an up-and-coming player, a lot of upside there. Maybe didn't fit into the Patriot way. And I think he'll fit in fine for the Detroit Lions. I think he'll be a player that breaks out huge in the preseason. My favorite free agent signing so far this year, even over Marvin Jones, is Andre Roberts. Love it. Love it. Loved him when he was in Washington. Said last year, it'd be great to get an Andre Roberts. I can't remember if we mentioned it on a podcast during the free agent period. I can't remember if we did or not when he was released. But either way, love me some Andre Roberts. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player this year. I think he's going to be a player that isn't recognized or talked about till like week 4. I think he's going to be huge. He's going to be a third down machine. He is that Wes Welker. He is that Julian Edelman type player the Detroit Lions are going to need in that slot. But the big thing with him is he's able to play the number 2 wide receiver position and get vertical on the outside. He's a more versatile receiver in comparison to the Wes Welkers, the Danny Amendolas, and the Julian Edelmans. I just really like Andre Roberts. He's my favorite free agent signing of this year. My top release this year has been Stephen Tulloch. Now, I think Stephen Tulloch did a great job for the Detroit Lions. You can't ask for more than what he did for his 5-year career for the Lions. Didn't miss a lot of time, but the last couple of years been a little dinged up, slowed by injuries and age, 10-year veteran. It was a great marriage when it started. He came in with Jim Schwartz, came from the Tennessee Titans. At the time, he was one of the best linebackers in the league, middle linebackers in the league. And it looked like it was a marriage made in heaven. And for the first couple of years, it was a pretty good fit. Now, I didn't agree with the philosophy Jim Schwartz had on defense coming to the Detroit Lions. I thought he'd bring more of that Tennessee Titans-style defense when he came over. It was more of a zone defense that didn't blitz and played everything in front of him. But, you know, he was a good fit. I can't really knock it, but I'm glad we saved the $6 million for cutting him. That was a huge move by Bob Quinn. Now, we paid him that $500,000 bonus. Who cares? I could care less about that. We saved $6 million. We're $20 million under the cap right now. Huge, huge money. Next year, we're going to be sitting so pretty to re-sign a lot of our guys, re-sign Matthew Stafford to an extension because, guys, like Matthew Stafford or not, he's the guy. He's going to break out this year. We said last year he was going to be a top 10 quarterback. He turned out to be a top 10 quarterback. We thought if we were going to take the next step in the playoffs, he needed to be the top 5 level with the team around Matthew Stafford last year. But this year, I think better and bigger things are coming from Matthew Stafford. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. Now, you see all the reporters talking about how Matthew Stafford's going to break out this year. Well, who's been talking about that? Who's been on the Matthew Stafford bandwagon? That's right, Straight Lions Talk has been. We have been on the forefront of that. When people were dogging him, saying we need to get someone else, we need to go sign RG3, We need to look in trading Matthew Stafford for Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, all these other guys. No, you guys that's wrong. That's not even close to right. And all you guys out there say, we're never going to win anything with Matthew Stafford's quarterback. Okay, who do you want? Name some other guys. Name the quarterbacks coming out in this year's draft. Are you head over heels for them? Who did you want this year? Would you love to have Carson Wentz? Not me. The Eagles can trade up all their draft picks and sit him. The Eagles are talking about not even making him active this year. Who does that? You draft someone number 2 overall and let him sit for 5 years? What is this, 1970? I mean, Matthew Stafford's the real deal. He's with Jim Bob Cooter now. The offense has a little more flavor to it. It fits him better. He's doing things he likes. He's in more control of the offense. The blocking schemes have been simplified. And I don't care what Heath Evans has to say about Matthew Stafford will never take another level without having a complicated system like Drew Brees runs, blah, blah, blah. Screw you, Heath Evans, boner. Quit acting like you want to get back in the league. Ugh, so annoying Heath Evans is. All the time. NFL Network, I can't believe they keep him on, and I hope Heath Evans hears this, and he could beat me up in a second, but I don't care. And he could probably outrun me and catch me to beat me up, but I don't even care about that. Heath Evans is an idiot. All he does is dog Matthew Stafford all the time and jockey Drew Brees because he won a Super Bowl with Drew Brees and Tom Brady. So, on Heath Evans. Another issue we'd like to bring up out of the things we've been right on that people have just finally caught on to here at Straight Lions Talk is T.J. Jones. I see a lot of articles out there talking about how T.J. Jones is going to break out this year. T.J. Jones was our breakout player last year. We thought he was going to be the guy that was going to take the next step. And he showed flashes of that at times. I don't understand why Jim Caldwell was so hesitant to play him. When he was on punt returns and kick returns in the preseason and in the regular season, you could see the big play ability happening. Now, we've tried to get T.J. Jones on the show. He doesn't answer any of our tweets or any of our text messages or any of our emails. So, TJ, if you're listening to the show, bruh, come on. We'd love to have you on. We'd love to talk about how great you can be within this Lions offense and how you're a budding, big-time receiver coming out of the slot. That Tyler Lockett role, that Wes Welker type of role. You're a big play waiting to happen out of Notre Dame. Had some phenomenal years there. We loved him. Now all the articles coming out are how T.J. Jones is going to break out. Watch out for T.J. Jones this year. Who was in the front of that? Just like the Calvin Johnson stuff. We were out in front of the Calvin Johnson stuff way before that. Now, did we know he's going to retire? No. But we did want to get rid of him a year before, not this last year, not this last draft, the 2015 draft or 14 draft, we wanted to get rid of him. We wanted to ship him out and get Amari Cooper. We thought the Raiders would be a perfect spot with all that salary cap money. At the time, they would be a team that would maybe like to have a Calvin Johnson, why he still had a lot of trade value. Now we've lost him for nothing. We're paying him $12 million this year against our cap, and he's retired. Well, Calvin Johnson was a great player for the Lions. Like I said, one of my favorite players of all time, one of my favorite Lions of all time. But it was time for him to go. And I honestly think the Lions offense is going to be better. Another area that we were talking about, and I've been reading articles how the offense is going to be better with Matthew Stafford and the receiving core they have not having Calvin Johnson there as great as he was. That's something we've said when we talked about trading him. It's something we said after he retired, and people dogged us for it. So just a few things to pat ourselves on the back. But, yes, those are just a few areas we've been right on. We probably shouldn't do that, but they were just bugging us that we were right on these areas and people weren't giving us any credit or any due on being right on these areas. You can go back to listen to all our podcasts. You can listen to our YouTube videos prior to doing a podcast, and it's all on there. So I challenge all of you to do that, and these are all things we've talked about. But moving on to the Detroit Lions draft, the 2015 NFL draft for the Detroit Lions did not go as we thought it would. We chose some players we thought they were going to attack and some positions we thought they were going to attack under Bob Quinn, and they kind of didn't do that. They made some different decisions that had me scratching my head at times, but for the most part, I understood a lot of the choices the Detroit Lions made in this last NFL draft. I kind of thought they were going to go offensive tackle with the first pick. We talked about that. We went to the Notre Dame Pro Day. They were exclusively looking at Ronnie Stanley. All the scouts were. They ran all the drills. Bob Quinn followed him around from drill to drill. And that kind of gave me just a hunch that they were going to go offensive tackle, whether they thought Stanley was going to fall and that rumor was starting, and Laramie Tunsil ended up falling, and now he might not even be a starter. I don't know what's going on there. But I think the Detroit Lions made the right pick. Now, we had the Detroit Lions trading down. I thought for sure they would trade down because that's just kind of the Patriot way. And I thought the Detroit Lions would trade down and acquire more picks going into this next year's draft because, for the most part, they want to acquire picks. We've talked about this a lot, that they want to follow that Patriot, Denver Broncos, Steelers mentality that quantity over quality is the way to win in the NFL. Get a whole bunch of picks, draft a whole bunch of guys, and see which ones stick against the wall. And I thought the Detroit Lions would do that by trading down in a draft that offered a multitude of high-level talent players from pick 25 into the late fourth round. And I thought the Detroit Lions would acquire picks there to make up for the first round, maybe the loss of a first-round pick or moving back into the first round, and acquiring picks for next year's draft, a draft that's a little bit deeper than this year's draft in a multitude of positions. But this draft was tailor-made for the Lions for the positions they needed, defensive line and offensive line. And they addressed a lot of that. Not so much on the defensive line like I thought they would, but they did address a lot of the needs of the Detroit Lions in the trenches. But they took Taylor Decker, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. I really liked the pick. It was a pick the Detroit Lions needed to make. And it was a pick that, this whole draft for the Lions was a draft that no one really wanted the Lions to have or do. But it was the draft everyone always talked about after the season started and things weren't going well that the Detroit Lions should do. They took a lot of offensive linemen. They took a lot of position players for specific roles. And it's the draft that everyone always says, I want the Lions to draft more offensive linemen. I want the Lions to do this. They need to do that. Why did they do this in the draft? They're always going after skill positions. So they didn't do that this year. And what was the first thing everyone said? Why didn't they go after more skill positions? There was wide receivers there. There was running backs there. There was tight ends there. There was a safety there. There was this there. There, blah, 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 blah. And they didn't do that. They didn't fall into that trap. They took the best player on their board. They seemed very happy with all the players they acquired in this draft. We'll take a rundown right here, right now, of the players, and we'll break down the first 3 rounds this week. And we'll continue through rounds 4 through 5 next week, 6 through 7 the following week, leading up into training camp for the Detroit Lions. But, like I said, the first-round pick for the Detroit Lions at number 16 was Taylor Decker, Ohio State, offensive tackle. Again, a guy that has a lot of talent, a mean, physical freak up on the offensive line that's going to help set the tone for the offense and give Matthew Stafford some time and some stability. And most of all, the confidence that he can sit back there and throw the football without guys crushing him before he wants to throw it, after he throws it. I mean, last year it was just pitiful at times when Joe Lombardi was still there. Matthew Stafford was getting hit before he even came out of his break. It was terrible. And we all saw it. We all knew it. We all know it needed to change. And Bob Quinn took steps this year in the draft making that change. So Taylor Decker was our first-round pick for the Detroit Lions. Second-round pick was A'Shawn Robinson, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I thought this was a perfect spot to take A'Shawn Robinson. A lot of people had him going 16 overall to the Lions in the first round. I thought taking Robinson in the second round here was great value. I think he fit the second round better than the first round. I think he has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor out of any of the Alabama defensive linemen that came out this year. I really like his game. I think it fits what Bob Quinn wants to do defensively to a T. The third-round pick really shocked me. I thought we'd go a different direction here. This is the compensation pick for Ndamukong Suh. We took Graham Glasgow, center out of Michigan. I didn't see this coming. Glasgow was a guy that's been rising up draft boards all year. He had just a great East-West Shrine game. He had a great Senior Bowl, which the East-West Shrine game got him invited to the Senior Bowl. Solid player at Michigan, really made his mark this year under Jim Harbaugh. So let's hope that because when Harbaugh came in and installed a more pro-style offense, a pro-style attitude, things clicked for Graham Glasgow. And going forward for the Detroit Lions, because center is a position the Detroit Lions can't seem to get right. We had Dominic Raiola for 15 years. It was 15 years of average, below average play with one good year. And this is a position the Detroit Lions have struggled to obtain. It used to be the second option for Calvin Johnson. They got that solved with Golden Tate. Then it became the slot receiver. Then it was the tight end. Then it was this. There's certain positions for the Detroit Lions over the years that have been kind of albatross around their neck. They haven't been able to figure out how to fix that problem through the draft, free agency. No matter what they do, it always seems to blow up in their face. But drafting a guy like Graham Glasgow, big, physical, 6'5", 320-pound center, is going to be something the Detroit Lions have never had. Now, the one knock against him is he might be a little bit too tall to play the center position. But I don't think that's going to be such an issue for Glasgow or Matthew Stafford. I really like the pick here for the Detroit Lions, getting Glasgow. It was something I didn't think would happen, but the Detroit Lions liked him enough, they pulled the trigger, and you can't really fault him for that in a position of need like center was for the Detroit Lions. Fourth-round pick was a player people talked about to the Detroit Lions for probably a month. This is probably the one I heard the most going to the Detroit Lions was Miles Killebrew, safety out of Southern Utah. It was a player that the Detroit Lions went to this pro day. They really liked. They coached him up at the East West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. And it's a guy that he's a little raw, but he has big hitting ability. Now, I don't think he's going to play a predominant safety role. I think he's going to play in more of a hybrid. I think there's going to be games he's going to play a lot, and there's games he's not going to play a lot. I think he's going to be a key acquisition on special teams, and I believe that he's going to play the cash money linebacker position or the money linebacker position. I really think he's going to play that hybrid Philip Buchanan type role that the Cardinals have him playing, and he's going to be that new age safety that we talked about that we wanted Sean Davis to be for the Detroit Lions, who ended up getting drafted by the Steelers, where Killebrew is going to fill that role. He's built like a linebacker, but has enough speed to play and physicality to play the tight end over the middle and play some coverage on some slot receivers when he has help. I believe this is a good pick for the Lions, but this is one that's going to take some time. And Terrell Austin being there, he's done a great job developing our cornerbacks. Ever since he's gotten there, the development of our cornerbacks has really taken off. And Miles Killebrew is no exception to that. Having having Austin there, training up the cornerbacks in the secondary is only going to help Killebrew going forward. Now, can we keep Austin there? I don't know. Terrell Austin's kind of been that Rooney Rule guy going around, and I think he finally realized it this year, because this year everyone thought he was gone, and he never even really got a second interview. He just kind of did the first interview because he had to, and I kind of feel bad for him that way, but in another way, I'm really glad he's back with the Detroit Lions, because I only think our defense is going to get better, especially with Bob Quinn being there and taking the reins off him a little bit and giving him more freedom to do what he does best, which is get after the quarterback and just cause chaos on the defensive side of the ball for offenses. The fifth-round pick for the Detroit Lions, we had 2 fifth-round picks in this last draft. Joe Dahl, offensive tackle out of Washington State. Again, 3 of the first 5 picks were offensive tackles. So you kind of see where Quinn was going here. This solves, hopefully, the right tackle position for the Detroit Lions, another position the Detroit Lions can't seem to get right. Now, this year, Taylor Decker may play that right tackle position, where Dahl may just be a backup and be bred into it next year. Drafting Decker really helps also because Riley Reif more than likely will not be back next year. There's rumors Riley Reif's going to kick to the right side. And, guys, we're going to start with prediction of the week this year already. So, prediction of the week, prediction of training camp. We believe the Detroit Lions may trade Riley Reif and or Larry Warford during training camp. Boom, just blew your mind. The reason we believe that is both of those players are up next year, and I don't believe both will be back. Larry Warford's had a few dings here and there. If he can get through camp healthy and another team needs a guard, not in our division, maybe not in the NFC, another team needs a guard, another team needs a tackle, and if guys like Joe Dahl, guys like Graham Glasgow, guys that came along last year can step up and fill that role for the Detroit Lions, and they have no qualms, and they think that trading one of them can give them, again, more picks coming into this next year's draft so they can get to that magical 10 mark that they want to get to. That's only going to help the Detroit Lions. And that's our prediction. We believe that the Detroit Lions will trade either Riley Reif or Larry Warford. So when that happens, remember us so we don't have to go bragging about all of our predictions. With the second fifth-round pick, the Detroit Lions had the number 169th pick of the draft. The Lions drafted Antoine Williams, outside linebacker, Georgia Southern. This started the question marks of late-round picks for the Detroit Lions after the Joe Dowell pick. The Joe Dowell pick kind of raised an eyebrow. I thought, okay, I get it. Fleet-footed offensive tackle. You know, I get it, but you know, the Antoine Williams pick, I didn't really understand. I thought it was a little early for him. I'm believing in my heart that Quinn has a specific role. He sees him developing into that role maybe in the next 2 to 3 years for the Detroit Lions. I really didn't understand it because I thought there were better options there for the Detroit Lions than outside linebacker, considering that Bostic, you have, DeAndre Levy, and that made me wonder, is DeAndre Levy healthy? Tier Whitehead can play almost all the positions at linebacker position. It made me wonder, but I'm just trusting in Bob Quinn that he has a plan for this guy, and he's one of those guys like the Steelers draft, and then 3 years later, he comes in, and you're like, who the heck is this guy? And he fits a specific role perfectly for the defense and the scheme that the Detroit Lions want to play going forward under Bob Quinn. So Antoine Williams was a second fifth-round pick, the 169th pick overall in the fifth round for the Detroit Lions, outside linebacker out of Georgia Southern. Starting the sixth round, the Detroit Lions went with a quarterback, but it wasn't the quarterback. We wanted Trayvon Boykin. That was a quarterback we really liked. That's the quarterback we really thought the Detroit Lions should go after, and/or Vernon Adams with that late pick, take a flyer on that, and do the opposite of Matthew Stafford. Well, to our surprise, the Detroit Lions, a player that I joked earlier in the year the Detroit Lions should take a flyer on, and then thought, maybe not, is Jake Rudock. But, like we've always said, Detroit didn't need a starting quarterback. They just needed a guy to come in and back up Matthew Stafford because he's our guy. He's our guy going forward. Hopefully we can get him re-signed after this year. You saw Andrew Luck signed for. Matthew Stafford's going to come close to that, guys. He's going to come close to the $120 million, $130 million category. In free agency, the Lions may have to pay that. I don't know if he'll give him a hometown deal, if Quinn will be able to talk him out of it. But Jake Rudock will probably never take a snap for the Detroit Lions unless we're winning big, losing big, or Matthew Stafford is hurt. Now, let's hope none of that happens other than the winning big part, and we hope Matthew Stafford doesn't get hurt where Jake Rudock is forced into action. We have to see Dan Orlowski play. I just ultimately think he's going to be the third quarterback this year, learn, be the backup the rest of his career in Detroit, and kind of just be that Charlie Batch type of quarterback going forward in the NFL. I don't see him ever being a starter. I don't think he's going to be a Kirk Cousins, and I hope people don't start with the start Jake Rudock crap if Matthew Stafford doesn't throw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns every game. And the Detroit Lions, happen to lose a game, which I'm sure they will. The sixth round, they had 3 sixth-round picks. So with our first sixth-round pick, we took Jake Rudock. With the second sixth-round pick, the 202nd overall, we took Anthony Zettel, defensive end, Penn State. I actually really like this pick. I thought this was great value this late in the draft for a player of caliber, the caliber type of player that Anthony Zettel is. Played in the Big Ten, played against Jake Rudock, and he was probably the best defensive player the Penn State Nittany Lions had last year on the defensive line, in my opinion. Well, Austin Johnson was pretty good too. But coming off the edge, he was a lot better player than he's given credit for. I think he's going to be a solid player in the NFL. I don't know if he'll live up to that Derek Wolfe type of role like Denver had. I don't think he'll be that caliber of player, but I think he might just be a step below. High motor guy, physical at the point of contact. I really like a lot of the things he does. He doesn't have overall great ability, so he relies a lot on his technique, and that has helped him a lot. Going to the NFL, getting stronger, learning better technique is only going to help a guy like Anthony Zettel. I really like this pick. Don't be surprised if he is a preseason star for the Detroit Lions, a guy a lot of people are talking about. Now, with our third sixth-round pick, the 210th pick overall, this really made, I think, every analyst for the Detroit Lions and every Detroit Lions fan scratch their head when the Detroit Lions stepped up to the mic and said, the Detroit Lions draft Jimmy Landis, long snapper, Baylor. Now, his YouTube video's pretty sweet. My man can hike a football between his legs from just a billion yards and make baskets. Sweet. But I don't understand why we had to waste a 6th-round pick, the 210th pick overall, on a long snapper that more than likely would have been there in the 7th round if you really have to go after a long snapper, and we have Milbach. So I don't understand what the necessity was there unless the Detroit Lions are trying to get, again, working on their special teams. A scout told me from snap to punt, you want that time frame to be in under 7 seconds. So I guess the Detroit Lions are looking to speed that process up. I don't believe Sam Martin will be back as a Detroit Lion after this year. I don't believe Bob Quinn believes in paying punters huge money. So I don't see him coming back. Maybe there's some method to the madness. Maybe this is a future thing when Don Malbeck retires finally after his 200th NFL season as a long snapper. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, the reason this made me mad when we took this is because Daniel Braverman was still there. I think Daniel Braverman, who, of course, the Chicago Bears freaking drafted, is going to be a stud. I read some articles through minicamps that Daniel Braverman was uncoverable during minicamp. And I believe Daniel Braverman, another interesting fact, fantasy alert, is going to be a huge get in fantasy football. PPR leagues, I believe he's going to be huge. I believe he's going to be a huge factor fantasy football-wise. And I believe he's someone the Detroit Lions are going to have to deal with for years to come, a player that could end up breaking our backs and breaking our hearts in a multitude of different ways. With his skill set, he's able to get deep. He's able to do this. I mean, he's no worse than Cole Beasley, and I'd say he's in the Danny Amendola talk right now, and he's going to probably develop into a better version of Julian Edelman as he learns the league, gets more confidence. And, you know, he was a guy that was supposed to go a little bit higher and didn't. So I'm sure he's going to have a little attitude about it, and that's only going to hurt the Detroit Lions. And I think it's going to be a great safe haven for Jay Cutler, who likes to dump the ball off a lot, to have a guy like Daniel Braverman there. And I don't be surprised, prediction of the year, if Daniel Braverman isn't that guy that you cuss about every time we play the Bears, or every time you want the Bears to lose a game to help the Detroit Lions, and Daniel Braverman breaks the team's heart. I think he's going to be a phenomenal football player. I think he's underrated. I only think, he was great at Western Michigan. I know it was a lower-level school, but he dominated there. Dominated, and that's what we look for. Lower-level talent to dominate, and that's what he did. And he dominated against the best teams. We talked about it. He was a guy we had in our mock drafts, the last 3. We did 4 mock drafts. Out of the last 3, he was a player we talked about quite exclusively in this position, in the 6th-round area, all the time. I believe in our last mock draft we had him going at the first pick in the 6th round because we didn't want to miss out on him. And I would have loved to have seen the Lions come away with Daniel Braverman. If they would have came away with Daniel Braverman here instead of the long snapper, I would have really liked this draft a lot more than I do now. I really like me some Daniel Braverman. He dominated against the best competition. When the competition level got higher, he only played better with mediocre quarterback play at Western Michigan. I really like everything Daniel Braverman does. So I'm a huge Daniel Braverman fan, but unfortunately he plays for the stinking Chicago Bears, and we have to root against him. And with the 7th pick and our last topic of the night, we're not going to get into the 3 players like I thought. Time got away from us. We'll do that next week. We'll do the first 4 rounds next week and really get this thing going and do the total preview of all the players. With the 7th pick and the 7th round pick, the 236th pick overall, the Detroit Lions drafted Dwayne Washington, running back out of Washington. Now, this is a player I really didn't see coming. There was a guy named Trey Carson out of Texas A&M I really liked. There was a couple other guys I thought maybe the Lions should have went after in this position that had slipped through the draft. But I understand what they did here. He's a big running back, 6'2", 230 pounds, fast. Former wide receiver, I believe. I like this pick, but he's very raw. He doesn't have a lot of elusiveness to his game. He catches the ball really well out of the backfield, something that the Patriots expected out of all their running backs is the ability to receive the ball out of the backfield. I don't know how he handles blitz pickups. I think he's going to be an interesting player to watch during the preseason. I don't know how his camp's going to go. I think health is going to be a big issue for him going into camp. Can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, I think he'll make some noise. At no worse, he should be able to beat out, what's his face? The white guy I was ripping on earlier. I can't remember his name. That's how important he is to me. He should be able to beat out George Wynn, and he should be able to beat out Zach Zenner. He should be able to beat all those guys out. I don't see how he can't. I mean, Zach Zenner, that was a Martin Mayhew free agent pickup, a fan pickup. That was, that's the fan's choice for a player. And George Wynn, I'm tired of hearing George Wynn's name, just like I'm tired of hearing Corey Fuller's name. I believe Corey Fuller's going to get bumped by Jeremy Curley and Andre Roberts and T.J. Jones this year. I'm afraid T.J. Jones might lose out to one of those guys. I think he's going to have to either beat out Jeremy Curley, and he's easily going to beat out Corey Fuller. But having Corey Fuller and George Wynn off the team are going to be huge praises for me. I'm tired of having those guys on the team. They're mediocre players. They don't serve a role for the Detroit Lions going forward. That's our show this week. Next week, we're going to break down each position or each round of the draft, each player, up to the first 4 rounds. We didn't have time tonight. I thought we would. We got into some few other things, elaborated on a few things. But, hey, it's great to be back. We really appreciate everything you guys have done. Keep listening. Again, if you want to find us, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher, YouTube, Vine, Instagram, a variety of different formats, Spreaker.com. But if you get on iTunes, you get on Spreaker, you get on any of those formats, Spreaker's for Android, you get on any of those formats, please give us a rating. Give us a rating. Let us know how we're doing, good, bad, or indifferent. That way, when you guys type in, Detroit Lions, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is, Vine, it comes up, Detroit Lions, STRLionsTalk. And that's what we want. We want to be the number one go-to information center for Detroit Lions news. That's our ultimate goal. We're pulling it off, I believe. I think we're going to be there. I think we're going to take a step this year. With the NFL Draft Bible behind us, it's only going to get better. So for all of you out there, we really appreciate it. It's great to be back. See you next week.